Okay. Hi. Can y'all hear me? My name is Patrick. I just got through talking for 3 hours straight, so you have me for 20 to 25 minutes. So bear with me if my voice goes out or if I just start crying because I've been talking a lot. But I'm here to present on Riding with the Pack, finding your tribe in unlikely places, exploring motorcycle club culture as a means for understanding the importance of finding your tribe. It's a lot of words, which I'm now regretting because I'm tired of talking. But my name is Jim Patrick Harris. Jim because that is my birth given name. Patrick because that's my awesome Catholic name. So I have to constantly remind people that my name is Patrick. I go by Patrick. I have a BA, an MA, CTTS, LPCI, which stands for intern, pre-PhD, which is not a real thing, but it's something I tell myself while I'm crying through the PhD process. Any PhDs in the house? Okay, somebody buy this gentleman a drink, please, because he has earned it, I swear. So being a psychotherapist, I was thinking the other day about depression and how depression is so prevalent in our society and what goes into the experience of depression, right? It's something that we're all very familiar with. It affects 5% of Americans, or 1 in 20. And 80% of people that experience depression report that it's difficult to function according to these nerds right here. So step one of public speaking is to know your audience, right? So to put this in terms of Austinites, take 20 tacos. Take one of those tacos away and replace it with a depressed taco, and that's the statistic for depression. That hit y'all really hard. Oh my God. When I do this in Houston, it's angry drivers, and it doesn't get the same effect. And among the risk factors for depression, we have social factors, psychological factors, biological factors. Biological meaning, is there a chemical imbalance? Psychological, what's going on? Social, do you have that natural support system? And what's occurred to me is that social is something that I've been very fortunate to have. I have been able to find a tribe that I identify with. And when we're looking for resiliency factors of the social basis to fight off that oppression, it comes from tribalism, and humans have evolved in the context of tribalism. It's innate in our culture, and it was one of the earliest ways that we were able to organize and survive as a species. Tribes with the most loyal members succeeded more often than tribes that did not have the loyal members. So tribes that were easy to break up, that didn't get along, were the ones that would most likely perish. So according to these nerds right here in 2019, which is this year, found that tribal bias is a natural and nearly ineradicable feature of human cognition, and that no group, not even one's own, is immune. So think about that for a second. That no group, not even one's own, is immune. So we are just naturally gravitating towards finding our tribe. We're very social creatures. Now, granted, anybody that's studied statistics know that the statistics doesn't mean anything to the individual. There's probably people here in the audience saying like, I don't need a tribe, I'm a lone wolf, I can do this stuff on my own, whatever cool guys say to themselves. But the fact of the matter is, as social creatures, we need to find some sort of community. We need to find people to identify with. The sad lesson that we learned from the sanitariums back in Russia was the studies that showed us that failure to thrive is a real thing. Infants were provided all the natural resources they need. They were given water, they were given bottles, they were changed routinely, but they didn't have that social interaction. They were diagnosed with failure to thrive, and they ended up passing away. So there's much more to life than just our biological functions and substance. Even Maslow, in all of his infinite wisdom back in 1943, gave us the hierarchy of needs. Anybody seen the Maslow's hierarchy of needs? Cool, because this is nerd night. And we're looking, so the goal is self-actualization. Like, we can finally party with ourselves, find out, my new favorite expression was used earlier with the, what was it? What blows up your skirt? So before we can find what blows up our skirt, we have to have that sense of belonging, as in addition to water, safety, security, blah, blah, blah. But we need to find our community before we can really have that self-esteem and reach our full self-actualization potential. I drew this arrow. My mom's gonna be so proud. So when we think of tribe, we think of two different things. So tribe, like old tribals. So I Googled tribe, and this is what popped up. Is this what you probably thought of tribe when you first heard tribe? Tribal communities? No? Yes. Spoiler alert. Yes. What about more like modern day? Like if you Google like, find your tribe, you get these really cool decals to go with your live, laugh, love posters, right? Find your tribe, love them hard, which is a favorite because it's like all over here. You can be your best self until you find your tribe, which is based on Maslow's that we just found out. And the adolescent in me wants to giggle at all the times it says hard on this giant screen right here. So, and we can't deny that tribes exist today. And some tribes exist just to oppose other tribes. We see that with politics. We have entire political parties that are based on just opposing the views of a different political party. When you ask somebody what they actually believe in, well, fucking not this guy, right? No, okay, that's valid. So what do you actually believe? Well, not this bullshit either. It's like, okay, yeah, but what do you actually believe? If your whole identity is based on opposing the beliefs of someone else, is that your actual tribe? We also see collegiate affiliations. We have UT. Where's any UT in the house? No? Any Aggies in the house? Get them. No, I'm just kidding. Or there's my alma mater. There's Texas State versus a good reputation. We'll get there. I swear to God, we'll get there. Not with me representing them, but eventually we'll get there. But then we have much more arbitrary affiliations, like those who feel that pineapple should go on pizza and those who feel the opposite. Just quick poll, pineapple on pizza? Yes. There we go. See, I already found my tribe. Job done. But even something this obscure has taken on its own identity. Who's seen at least one meme involving pizza and pineapples, right? Google it and you can find whole t-shirts and whole sense of identities tied around a topping on a pizza. So if this doesn't spell out that we have an innate part of ourselves that's yearning for affiliation, that's yearning for a connection, and you don't find it from this, I don't know what else, because this shows you in its purest form that people need to identify with one thing. But the problem with tribes sometimes is intolerance towards dissimilar groups. So is it us versus them? Because in its purest form in original tribal communities, that was a threat to safety. Are they an outsider? Are they gonna come in and take all of our cool stuff? Or are they gonna help us promote ourselves and live happy, fulfilling lives? Is your identity based on being different than another? And if that's the case, do you have a core sense of self that's separate from that opposing force of another tribe? Are you losing your sense of individuality for fear of rejection? Are you just conforming just to have a sense of belonging, or is this a tribe that you actually jive with, one that you actually get along with? And are you purposefully excluding people? Are you having a Mean Girls scenario where you only exist to keep people out? Mean Girls fans? No? It's Wednesday, I don't see any pink. This is my tribe. Aside from this adorably nerdy attire, I am actually a member of a motorcycle club here in Austin, Texas called Grim Guardian Motorcycle Club. I hang out with old people and do biker stuff. I kiss pretty ladies, which if you notice what she's wearing, anybody fans of Texas roller derby? Rhinestone Cowgirls. Even my partner has her own tribe right there. And then there's also tribes helping other tribes. So there's the macro, there's the whole motorcycle community, and then there's smaller tribes helping each other out. He's in a different club. He actually passed away earlier this year, but this picture was taken when one of his brothers passed away, and with my manly hands crafted this sweet mosaic tiled glass thing. But that's just an example of tribes helping tribes. So the motorcycle club, just community as a whole, started way back in 1903. And it originated in the United States up in New York, but now it can be found worldwide. Every continent, with the exception of Antarctica, you can find a motorcycle club in some shape, form, or fashion. And the original purpose of clubs was fundraising for public service projects like the one that we just heard from, veteran support, so a lot of these guys were veterans coming home from war, wanting to connect with their buddies and keep in contact, promoting veteran organizations, and then Toys for Tots, raising monies for nonprofits to support children, which I'm happy to report this still happens, because that's me. In fact, if you're on the roads any weekend in December, you might see whole hordes of bikers, because that's the best time of year to be a biker, is to support these nonprofits. And also, look how gender inclusive we are. That is a female Santa right there. And motorcycle clubs aren't just the ne'er-do-wells that you see on TV. There's law enforcement clubs, which we call LEMCs. There's firefighter clubs, EMS, EMTs, religious clubs, which are considered motorcycle ministry clubs, riding clubs, which are RCs, veteran-specific clubs, and then bike-specific clubs, like we all have Harleys, we all have Hondas, let's match our clothes. But part of the problem of being associated with a tribe that just has such a bad reputation is that, yes, organized crime is prevalent in some motorcycle clubs. Granted, if you have more than millions of clubs spread out around the world, there's going to be bad seeds. There's entire police departments that get shut down around the country because they've fallen into the pitfalls of organized crime. Growing up from 4 generations of police officers, ironic because I'm a biker, I thought that police officers were superheroes. I thought they could do no wrong until my mom retired from internal affairs. I'm like, oh no, they can do a lot of wrong, right? Police officers are not infallible. People just ruin things, right? If there's a group of people, there's gonna be, some of them are gonna be douches and they're gonna make bad decisions, but that doesn't represent the whole of the community. So then we also get that negative media portrayal. How often are you seeing bikers in the media portrayed in a happy light? Do you ever see bikers hugging babies or petting puppies? No, it's this guy shot this guy, that they just both happen to be bikers. We also have crap like Sons of Anarchy. Any Sons of Anarchy fans? No? After I said crap like Sons of Anarchy, everybody like, shh, David, he's a biker. And then you have historical events like the Hollister incident in California or the Hells Angels shooting, I think, in some casino in Nevada. And then we have the polarizing of groups, just assigning one belief or one judgment on the entire motorcycle community as a whole. And when all of these things go together, we have crap like Waco, Texas of 2015. Who remembers this when this happened? It was right in our back door, right? With the dust settled, 9 people were dead, 18 were wounded, over 200 were arrested. Anybody that was remotely dressed like a biker, even those not wearing cuts, just wearing t-shirts vaguely similar to the color of a single club, was arrested that day. Of those 200, 106 were indicted. 1 case went to trial, which ended in a mistrial, and all cases were eventually refused to prosecute or dismiss, not because they thought everybody was innocent, but because they just mishandled all of the evidence that badly. So among these 200 arrested was yours truly. What? I know, my mom said the same thing. Also, how cool is this picture? Look at that. I am not this cool in real life, so it's just really cool that I have this immortalized. Anyways, so the problem with persecuting and having such a polarized view of an entire tribe is one of the results of Waco. The reason they had all 200 people arrested is because they wrote cookie cutter affidavits. So everybody's arrest affidavit said the exact same thing. Whether they pulled somebody out of the fray with a bloody knife or adorable yours truly who was sitting under a tree waiting for a ride to go home because they told us all to go home, they all had the exact same affidavit written. And we now see a significant rise in motorcycle profiling. Here in Austin, you can get pulled over, you can be forced off your bike, they can search your crap, they can take pictures of all your tattoos and make you take off your clothes so they can take pictures of tattoos. How is that legal? I don't know, but they can do that. And you also get lack of sympathy from civil rights organizations. And so your first response might be, why do you need sympathy from civil rights organizations if you were going to a place that you knew there could be trouble? One, we don't know that. Motorcycle communities are typically not volatile, are typically not violent. There are over 49 different clubs here in Austin, and I bet you didn't know that that number was that significantly high because nothing ever happens here. But where we need more attention is the fact that they can do this and post an unflattering picture with absolutely no product in your hair, as well as your wrong name, or even just throwing you under the bus of where you work. They can also do this really cool thing where they show a map of Austin and show where you live. What? Yeah, that wasn't fun. But one fun story about that day is, so these two guys are in my club as well. And these are where they live, and they have much fancier houses than I do. I just had this really crappy apartment. And so the news crews went there, and they did that thing where they show the outside of the home, and they interview your neighbors. They're like, oh, they wouldn't hurt a fly. They did not do that to me because my apartment was so sketchy. They were probably like, oh, this kid's been through enough. Let's move on. Also, at the time, the people that lived above me were drug dealers, so I'm wondering like what they did when a bunch of news crews showed up. I'm sure they lost their minds. But what's ironic is when you attack a tribe, when you go after their sense of individuality or their core sense of self just because you don't like them, just because they're different, you create this paradox of persecution. So a threat or criticism to a tribe results in an increase in cohesion with the tribe. So your intention might be to scare us all and make us all dissipate and not be affiliated with each other anymore, but attacking a tribe pulls us together. The opposing force only strengthens a perspective and unites the tribe to defend itself. So if you're going to attack a tribe and you're going to try to peel them apart and call us all criminals and say that you don't have a place here, all you're going to do is strengthen the tribe. And Glaser said, a tribe without enemies is almost by definition not even a tribe. As a consequence, tribal dispute and warfare is part of what defines a humanity. So when you're thinking about why should I be affiliated with a tribe, not saying that you should all go out and buy motorcycles and be MC members, but when you're trying to find your place in society, when you're trying to find who to affiliate with, this is the benefits. People that have your back, people that hold you up in the face of adversity and pick you up when times are tough. Other reasons you should find your tribe is it increases your lifespan and gives you that sense of belonging. So mentioning earlier that failure to thrive, we're social creatures. We absolutely need a sense of belonging. There were water parks similar to SeaWorld that were around Florida and Georgia, and they were keeping killer whales by themselves. And they realized that their lifespan was significantly shortened because they were separated from their pods. They didn't have a tank mate. They didn't have anybody to correspond with or communicate with, and they would die 5-10 years on average earlier than whales that were kept with other whales. So it increases your lifespan, combats depression, improves your sense of self, gives you an identity, gives you a sense of belonging, gives you support when you need it. It gives you that resilience to fight off the depression because you have that social component. And it improves resilience as well, which I just said. So how will you know when you find your tribe? Is it as obvious as when I found my tribe because we all wear matching sweet little vests or all matching t-shirts? It's when you're encouraged to be yourself. It just does not require complete conformity. So think of political parties. That requires conformity. It requires an identity to be the opposite of whoever's opposing us. Think of cults. That requires conformity and just complete submission. But if you find your tribe and it's supportive and you're going to get the benefits, you're going to be encouraged to be yourself. You're going to be encouraged to have that honesty, to not have blind faith, to ask questions, to ask for that support. You're going to be given that space to learn, to grow, and to make mistakes. And for better or for worse, they're going to stick by your side. They're going to challenge you, and they're going to give, and they're going to receive. Any questions? That was a really subtle thing. I thought I had one more slide, but. And I only peed a little.
All right. Am I on? Yeah, okay. So just as a reminder, I call the question, I repeat the question, then we answer the question. And do not forget, Twitter is an option until my battery dies. So get them in quick if you're going to do that. So with that being said, I think I'll start with the wildly gesticulating arm right there. What you got?
So what events in your life led to you joining your MC?
What events in your life led to you joining your MC?
I think that's the beauty of finding your tribe based on this criteria. Because, that criteria. Because if somebody had come up to me 15 years ago and said, hey, one day you're going to be this badass biker, I mean, I still laugh today because I'm not a badass biker, but I would have laughed thinking no. I had the same negative stereotypes of bikers that oh, those are all just lawbreakers and outlaws and they do shady stuff. I found a club that had a very specific mission that worked with children who are victims of physical or sexual abuse, primarily in the court system. So you could be a courtroom advocate. So when you are a victim of abuse, you have to go and testify, a lot of times with the accuser in the room. but also think of like how supported you're gonna feel when there's like 10 scary bikers like in your corner. And I thought that was the coolest thing. So I got my foot in the door with that. And then the more I was around the guys of this particular club, the more I fell in love with them as individuals. And then the more I was around the community as a whole is really what sucked me in and realized this is my tribe. I'm allowed to do all of these things. I would post some random thing on Facebook, and then 5 other people would like come up to me the next motorcycle club event and ask me about it and like, hey, how's this going or how's that going? When I got out of jail in Waco, so I was in jail for 11 days, all of the media stuff was I was able to bond out that first night, and then they were like, these gang members were accidentally released on lowered bonds. They sent marshals everywhere looking for us. If you're sketchy like me and have 2 names, they can't find you. But when I got out of jail, I had letters because of my address. My mailbox was full of letters from club members from all over the United States, full of support. And instead of running away from the potential of this happening again, I was like, hell yeah, I'm a part of something much bigger than myself.
Awesome. All right. So we're off to a good start with the questions. Now we have one from Twitter, which was, if there aren't any already, under what circumstances would a woman be a leader of a co-ed motorcycle club?
Whew. Motorcycle clubs are gender inclusive. So yeah, there are the old traditional like no girls allowed type motorcycle clubs, but there are several in the Austin area and throughout the United States that are mixed gendered clubs. There are also like female only clubs. There's this club out of Corpus. Their cuts are white and they have purple and bedazzles all over it, and they are the coolest women I have ever seen in my entire life. They're awesome. They're basically like TXRD roller derby girls, but on motorcycles. So it is not just a male-dominated society anymore. Granted, it probably was 10, 20, 30 years ago, but now you see people of all walks of life.
All right, 2 for 2. Good questions. Let's see, what's going on? Dun, 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 dun. How about over here?
Oh my gosh, I never get to ask a question. I'm a rider. I ride a Harley. I'm a woman, obviously. Most of the female groups here in Austin are sport bike riders, and I ride with them. I'm kind of in the back because I'm in my lawn chair, just chilling, not speaking, or whatever. What's my question? Riders, just getting female riders in a group, I feel like the lone wolf thing. I'm like, I'm the lone wolf, I'm a bitch on my Harley, I'm riding, I'm chilling. But pretty much everybody rides sport bikes. And also, where you were talking about the motorcycle club that goes out with children who are abused, I've been wanting to join that group, but I didn't see many females or women in that group, so I felt kind of awkward joining it. But I know that there's a need for female riders in that group. There's a lot of children who are females as well that need representatives and need, some bitches that are like, hey, I'm here, I ain't gonna take no shit. I'm watching you. I don't know. I'm trying to get my vibe and my tribe more with the female Harley riders. There's mostly sport bike riders, but I don't like the division between the sport bike riders and the Harley riders and the little moped riders. I'm like, you're on 2 wheels. Let's all be together. How do we get that, that vibe together more, other than like, I'm riding the sport bike. I'm like, eat Billy's, and then I'm on my Harley.
So is your question just like how to break down the boundaries between the tribes? Okay. Awesome.
So that goes back to if you have to break down doors to be a part of the tribe, like if their whole thing is excluding, I don't know where it is. If their whole thing is excluding other people, is that a tribe that you actually want to be a part of? So I would keep knocking on doors until you find that level of acceptance that you're looking for. Not that level of like, hey, you can only be a part of us if you ride this particular motorcycle. Is that really something you want to be a part of? Because then it's just like you're only a part of it because you're not this person that they don't like. Get with me after. There are plenty of clubs that would welcome you in that do the service portion.
The car riders that drive, they're always on their phones,
Yeah.
Sounds
There's
like y'all have a
place.
lot to talk about after.
Separated, but I wanted to get together because we're all on two fields.
Yep.
We're all on two fields. We're at the mercy of everybody else. No matter if we're on a little 50cc or if we're on a 1200cc. You know?
We'll find a place for you. Buy me a Jameson and we'll talk.
Yeah. We're going to.
Riders on my heart. I'm right on my heart list.
So I think we were, let's see, I'm trying to find somebody I haven't called on before. How about you?
Me?
Yeah.
So, how would you suggest to assess quickly if this tribe is right for you or not? Or if I give a real scenario, is when you're interviewing for a job, you want to know if this thing is good for you or not. And then the side question, how do you become a good team player?
How do you decide if a group is good for you or not? Was that what you got?
Yeah, like in a work context, when you interview companies.
So Austin organizations do a really good job of that because a lot of these startups are doing it right where they want you to be a part of their team. There's a sense of identity with working here. We all go to happy hours together. We all wear matching T-shirts. We all do pub trivia together. And if that's what you're looking for, that's awesome. But when you say be a part of a team, if you have to forego some of the things that make you you, are you really a part of that team, or is that just a source of paycheck, but your real tribe is over here? Just because it's a mandatory part of your life doesn't mean it needs to be a mandatory, I had a really good thought and it just left. Just because it's part of your livelihood doesn't mean that you have to find your tribe there. Like if you've ever watched The Office, anybody watch The Office, where Michael Scott likes to talk about, I like my work people to be my family. It's like, why can't they just be your coworkers? Like for some people, their place of employment is their tribe. Police officers are notorious. They have the thin blue line, we're all brothers and blah, blah, blah. Like that's awesome, but not every job has that. So if you don't find your sense of belonging in your place of work, you have other avenues in your life to find that same sense of belonging. You can find it at nerd night, you can find it at hobby places, anywhere else.
All right. I think we've got time for a few more questions. So let's see. What are we looking at here? Dun, 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 dun. How about you?
So, how do you think about when it's appropriate to exclude people from tribes, specifically thinking in the context of like more loosely defined cultural tribes, or people may be thinking like, well, if everyone's a part of this like loosely defined cultural tribe, then it means nothing, right? So
Yeah.
So what's your way of thinking about what makes that appropriate versus not?
When is it appropriate to filter someone from the tribe?
So do they pose a threat? Do they build up the community? Do they keep the community moving forward? Do they contribute to it? Or are they leeches and they're just taking away? Or they just want to be seen with the organization or the tribe or a sense of, we've all been a part of like group projects where there's one person that just didn't do anything. Like they didn't add any value. As long as, you don't always have to add value, but as long as you're not taking away from the group, you're not making other people in your tribe suffer, then there's that sense of belonging. As long as they're still getting the rewards and the tribe itself is still getting the rewards, like is this individual challenging the tribe? Is this individual giving and receiving? Are they sticking through the tribe for better or worse? Or are they bandwagon tribe members and like, oh, this tribe's going downhill, let me jump over here?
Awesome. All right. So let's see. Front row.
Yeah, thank you. I have a question. Is there any science about the size of a tribe? Like how small or how big it should be? For example, talking about motorcycle clubs. For example, Harley owners groups. They're all riding Harleys. It's kind of small group. Then we are talking about motorcyclists in general. All on two wheels, it's a bigger group. Then we are talking about motorized vehicles operators. It's including riders, drivers. It's much bigger group.
Yeah.
Then we are talking about just humans. So how small or how big should be? Is there any science on that? Like how should you find your group?
Is there an optimal tribe size?
I think it depends. So this is just based on inference from context. and what I know as a mental health professional. I think it depends on the purpose of the tribe, because there's micro, macro, meso, the other words that start with an M, where like it's the little egg that gets bigger. So there's the micro tribe that could be like your relationship or your immediate family, and then there could be more of a macro tribe. It's like, all right, what other affiliations do you have, whether a club or a church group or something? And then there's a step above that is like, what's your community? Are you part of the Austin community? Are you part of this? And then there's a larger one, we're all in the same country, so are we all recognizing as Americans, or are we from a different country and still recognizing our patriotism to that? And then we're also like planet Earthlings, I guess, if you're into sci-fi. Like, it depends on what your point of that affiliation is. But I would be interested, I didn't think about that. I would be interested in, if you're just for the sake of affiliation, for these benefits specifically, what is the optimal tribe size? I would be curious about that.
Excellent. More to learn. That's always good. We've got time for one more question. Who's got it? Is this like the best question? I appreciate the humility. What do you got?
Is there a lobby organization that all riders can get behind that would help with improving riders' rights?
Is there a lobby organization that people could support that supports riders' rights?
Oh my gosh. That's such a funny question, because the only reason I was involved in Waco was because we were going there for a meeting. It was called the Coalition of Clubs of Independence. That was our legislative meeting to talk about stuff like the Dead Red Bill. So for intersections that are censored by weight, vehicle weight, motorcycles aren't heavy enough to set it off. So other states have passed what's called the Dead Red Bill, that if you have gone through, I think, at least 2 red lights and you can safely run the red light, that you can do it, because you'll never get a green light unless a car comes behind you. Other like helmet safety laws, motorcycle profiling laws, and stuff like that. There's the, I don't know off the top of my head, but if you just Google it, there's so much stuff on anti-motorcycle profiling right now. There's so many like legislative action teams that are going on right now. If you get with me after, I have the actual specific names. I just can't think of them off the top of my head because the acronyms always change. But there are definitely ones out there.
Excellent. All right, that was a great one to wrap up on. A little bit of call to action. There we go. All right.